Oh, well, good evening out there. Well, the sun has slowly made its way down once again, and we can finally get comfortable and have a chat. My name is Eddie Booze, and this is Exit the Matrix. Well, throughout my life, I have traversed my share of rabbit holes, and like many of you out there, I have experienced some things that I simply cannot explain. I invite you all to consider that this world may not be exactly what we've been told it is, and that maybe, just maybe, we haven't even scratched the surface of the absolute truths that lie before us. That being said, let's get into today's episode. I'd like to thank my guest and welcome my guest, actually, Mr. Josh Alexander. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. How are you?
Good, man. Good to have you.
Thank you.
So Josh and I play music. Oh, yeah, got that intro card going again. So Josh and I play music together. We've just recently produced our first song called Pressed. We will be releasing that very shortly here.
Yes, sir.
Stoked. It came out great. You know, it's so different too. It's got kind of like when I very first got the music from you guys, I kind of didn't know what to make of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was going to be able to do over it, but it kind of evolved into what we made it, but it feels to me like it's like 3 songs in one.
Yeah.
And it gives me kind of like an At the Drive-In Mars Volta kind of vibe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Which is kind of a trip, but we'll play that. In fact, at the end of the episode here, or down below, I'll put a link to somewhere you can download the song for free, and it's not even out yet. So would you guys download the song, take a listen, enjoy, let us know what you guys think. And
Perfect.
Yeah, man, yeah. So what's been going on, dude? I hear your son's doing some soccer stuff.
Yeah,
lately?
man. Just parenting, man. Running around, soccer, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's good.
He came and traveled with us here today, so
yeah, man, it's good to have him in the studio with us. That's kind of cool, dude. Yeah, next time when I get a little heads up, next time we'll set a camera up for Caden. We'll set a camera up for you, little man, and get you on the episode and have you as a guest.
Yeah, buddy.
So yeah, okay, so let's get into it today. Okay, so I have distinct memories when I was a kid of going to see a movie called Fire in the Sky.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that movie?
I have. I don't recollect too much of it, though.
All right, so I do, because it fucking traumatized me as a kid. You know what I mean? You know, I think I was about 12, and I was into horror movies and all that stuff. But yeah, you see that movie and you're just like, holy shit, dude! Like, did this really happen? And the movie makes it out to seem like everybody had lie detectors and like it was totally true. And so, I mean, I don't know. I know he was on Joe Rogan recently. I know the real Travis Walton was on Joe Rogan recently.
Okay.
By the way, let me back up here. We're talking about a movie called Fire in the Sky, and this movie was about a man named Travis Walton, and that guy was a logger who I think the 70s. I think 79. I think it was 79. No, if I remember correctly, it was November 5th, 1979. He was with 5 or 6 of his logging buddies. They were coming back from, and this is like a lot of what I remember from the movie. They were coming back from a long day of work, and they saw this alien craft, like hovering over the forest.
Okay.
So they drove out to where it was. They found it, and Travis gets out of the truck, and he like walks over to it, and it like hits him with this beam of light, and like essentially like throws him like 30 feet, right? Like picks him up and throws him like 30 feet, and then like all of a sudden, like, and then his buddies get all freaked out and they like take off, and like as they're taking off, like it shows him like hovering in the air like on the beam and stuff. Okay. And then all of a sudden he's taken away, and then he's in the craft. It shows like him fully in this alien craft, been abducted for how long, you know, who know, he doesn't know.
Yeah.
But then it shows the aliens doing all this stuff to him and stuff, and but it's like kind of like flashes. As far as I remember, maybe it's just my brain that remembers the moments. You know what I mean? Like, but essentially, like it shows, you know, pieces of him waking up and, you know, clawing his way out of this like gooey cocoon thing and all kinds of crazy stuff during the movie. You know, and when he's in the craft, and then it, you know, shows him back and they do the whole thing. So like apparently this was a big thing. They heavily investigated this. In fact, I have some details here. So let's. I'll kind of give you the breakdown
with the whole thing.
All right. So I remember from what I remember. You know, I'm hoping that this is like fairly on point. Okay. So the Travis Walton abduction is one of the most famous and controversial alien abduction cases in UFO history. It occurred in November 5th, 1975.
Okay.
In the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest near Snowflake, Arizona. Walton, a 22-year-old logger, he was only 22 at the time, claimed to have been taken aboard a UFO and went missing for 5 days, triggering an intense investigation and media frenzy. Now, again, like I said, he was part of a logging crew. He was part of a 7-man logging crew. So it was him and 6 other dudes.
Okay.
And it was in a dense forest near Heber, Arizona. I'm not sure exactly where that is.
I don't know. Probably northern, though. Somewhere near Sedona, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, and okay, so it says they were driving home in their truck that evening, and they saw a bright disc-shaped object hovering close to the ground. Said the object emitted a bluish light and made a humming sound. Walton, curious and excited, got out of the truck to approach it. As he neared the UFO, a beam of light suddenly struck him, throwing him several feet backwards. His fellow workers, terrified, fled the scene in their truck, just like in the movie.
Left their homie, dude.
Yeah, left him out there,
See
bro.
ya.
And I guess like 1 or 2 of them, from what I remember from the movie, were like screaming, like, "We gotta go back! We can't leave him there!" And the rest of them were like, "We gotta live! I wanna live!" You know what I mean? Like, so after driving a short distance, they did stop. They gathered their courage and they returned, but Walton was gone. Okay. In the subsequent, days afterwards, the remaining crew members reported the incident to law enforcement, and a massive search effort was launched. Now, despite extensive searching, there was no sign of Walton for 5 days. Authorities began to suspect that the logging crew had murdered him and fabricated the UFO story as a cover-up.
Oh, wow.
And however, on November 10th, 5 days later, Walton reappeared. Dazed, confused, and weak near Heber, Arizona. He called his family from a payphone, and his brother came to pick him up. Now, again, what I remember from the movie was he essentially spawned in naked in front of this old beat up gas station that was either closed for the night or was no longer functional. But apparently there was a payphone there, and he went into this payphone booth and he called. And he
How'd he get change? Did he have pockets with change? He was
naked. I think it was a collect call. Okay. I mean, you kids don't remember this, but back in the day, there used to be something called payphones, and you could make a collect call from that phone to somebody and charge them on their phone bill to take your call from a payphone. That's how that would work. You say, you call the operator. "I'd like to make a collect call, please."
Josh.
Collect call. Yeah, they say say your name after the tone, and that's how it would work. You'd get a phone call, and you'd answer, and it would go, "Hi, you have a collect call from." Yeah, and it would clip you saying your name, Josh or Eddie or whatever, and then you'd answer that call. But it was it's a archaic old thing that we don't have anymore, long before pagers, So so he reappeared, called his family for a payphone. His brother came to pick him up. Okay, Walton's abduction account. So after recovering, Walton described his experience in vivid detail. He claimed that after being hit by the beam, he woke up inside of a cylindrical metallic room. He was on a reclined table surrounded by 3 short, bald humanoid beings with large eyes and pale skin. Feeling threatened, he tried to resist but was soon subdued. Later, he encountered taller human-like figures wearing blue uniforms who placed a mask over his face. After, when he blacked out, the next thing he remembered was waking up on a roadside watching the UFO disappear into the sky. Now, afterwards, lie detector tests and skepticism abound.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Walton and the other crew members took multiple polygraph tests. They just kept giving them to him.
Yeah.
with most of them passing.
Okay.
However, skeptics argue that polygraph tests obviously are not foolproof.
Yeah.
But seriously, you're going to get 7 guys that passed the same polygraph test multiple times. You know what I mean? Most of them. I think one guy, as far as I remember from the movie, there was one dude who was like a criminal in general.
So didn't want to give up the truth.
Well, he was just kind of nervous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just being around an authority figure as a criminal, and they're questioning you about some dude's, mysterious disappearance.
I'm assuming those were pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and that guy apparently had like beef with Travis. So he was like, fuck, you know what I mean? Like, they're looking at me, bro.
He's sweating, yeah. He's putting the pin in the bottom of his shoe and stepping on it, right?
Yeah, right. Whatever they say. Sucking on a penny or whatever they say, right. All right, so people suggest that Walton and his crew fabricated the story to gain publicity or avoid a failed logging contract. Others believe he might have suffered a psychological episode or been influenced by science fiction. I mean, that's, kind of weird. I mean, I don't know. It just seems to me like the more people you get involved in these episodes, in these things like this, like the less tight the story is, and the less you're able to keep a lid on things. The more people you invite into the secret, the easier the secret's going to be to blow up in your face.
For sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? So Walton actually wrote a book about his experience called Fire in the Sky, which was later adapted into the 1993 film that we all know. People my age, in their 40s and their late 30s and in their 50s and stuff, they know Fire in the Sky. His story remains one of the most discussed alien abduction cases, with believers citing it as compelling evidence of extraterrestrial encounters, while skeptics dismiss it as a hoax or misinterpretation of events. Now, whether real or not, the Travis Walton case does remain one of the most well-documented and debated alien abduction stories in history. It has influenced UFO research, popular culture, and public perceptions of alien encounters. So, just on its face, what do you think? Do you think it's true? Like, you saw the movie, you saw the evidence, you know that all these people told the same story.
Yeah.
He had puncture wounds in him and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think? Like, like if someone were to walk up to you and just give you a brief overview of this and just tell you that's what happened, would you think it's true or not?
No, I'd probably turn around and be like, later, dude.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty skeptical of alien abduction stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm not either direction on it, but I would think, I definitely think there's other life forms out in the world, and out of this world.
Sure.
But I don't know about gray men.
Interesting, dude.
Not
no, okay.
about that.
So, I mean, I would probably be like, listen.
I'd be intrigued to listen, though, and see. Let's hear this thing.
Yeah, I left the movie theater believing, dude. I was like, dude.
Yeah.
They presented it in such a way as if it was some sort of fact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was like, at the end of the movie, but maybe, like I said, I was 12, when that came out, and I saw it in theater. So maybe being a kid, you're influenced and like, just, whoa, holy shit. Like, was that real? Like, but, as an adult, you read the case and it's the exact same thing as the movie. It doesn't, there's not a big like, discrepancy between the actual retelling of events, the case, the book, and what we saw in 1993 of the movie. So it doesn't seem like, the story has changed much.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like he's like told a different story here and there.
Changing it throughout the years. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I don't know, man. I feel like personally, I feel like it could definitely be true. Now, I will say this. As far as aliens go, I'm not quite sure they're from outer space.
See, I would get on that train easier.
Okay, so what if, let me just throw a couple of ideas out there. What if aliens and gray men are just human beings from the future who have lost all their muscle mass because they don't engage in anything physical anymore, because all they do is rely on computers and everything else. So over time, our brains grow, but our bodies shrink.
Yeah.
And we become the gray men, and then, from the future, they come back to study where we went wrong, maybe.
So you can convince me of stuff that...
So that's more convincing to you than aliens coming from another planet from outer space?
Yep, it is.
Okay, what about this one? What if, here's another one. What if there are more continents on this planet than we know about?
Like the wall.
Like okay, yeah. What if that AE map is true and the ice wall is it does exist and there are like more continents outside that? What if there are concentric ice walls?
Yeah.
And more continents in between each ice wall?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what if those aliens that we know as Greys come from like one of
Somewhere
those
else.
continents, like outside the ice wall or outside the next ice wall or from one of those places? Like, what if they're from another place but not from outer space?
Yeah, that would be more believable to me.
See, I don't know, like,
because the whole outer space thing, I think just even the technology alone would be too archaic for another organism from another universe to be using coming here. You know, I don't know. I think if there was other life forms in other places, it wouldn't resemble humanity at all.
There wouldn't be a humanoid.
No.
I see. I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's explore that, because for a moment, like, let's take aside the fact that like we might actually encounter like any life forms. Like, if we are talking about deep space, if there is a deep space discussion, if there is an outer space in general, and there is a deep space discussion, we are talking about life forms that we are assuming are going to have 2 legs, 2 arms, and a head like us, because we have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head.
That seems ridiculous to me.
Why couldn't there be an ethereal intelligence that we don't know anything about, that doesn't have shape or form? Why can't there be some sort of bacterial life form out there that has intelligence that we can't measure? How are we the arbiters of what measures intelligence out there? It is. It really is. It's saying like, oh, well, they have to ambulate like us. They have to be able to have some sort of, verbal communicate. What if the bacteria on some other planet or in some other place is telepathic?
Yeah, I was going to say telepathy.
You know what I mean? And what if they, what if they work in a caste system that's more efficient than what we, you know what I'm saying?
Or even through its own DNA can communicate, or...
Exactly. Exactly. So who's to say, you're right. I think it might be a little arrogant. I've always thought that. I've always thought that it's been a little arrogant of people in general.
For humans... To say that is very arrogant.
To assume that's how alien life is going to show up. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, they're going to be a head, 2 arms. They're going to look like us.
Yeah, they're not going to need lungs. They're not going to,
Exactly.
Do they need eyes?
Right. Who knows what kind of life forms that are, out there and exist that we just don't know about in general, Mm-hmm. I mean, hell, how much of the ocean have we explored?
I don't know. It's very minimal. It's like 5%, right? Or something.
5%. Caden knows. He's in school. He knows.
It's not much. They find species all the time still. So
like every day. Dude, Magna Pinna. Do you know what a Magna Pinna is?
No.
Okay, so Magna Pinna are these giant squid with like these legs that like go like 100 feet down. Like, they didn't even think these things existed until they didn't even know. Yeah.
Wow.
We just found them.
Yeah.
And like mostly they're stationary. Like, they just chill.
Wow.
Like, they like float and like chill. Dude, recently we caught video of one of these things like moving super fast.
Really?
Like,
wow.
unbelievably fast. I can't remember how deep they are, but yeah, I believe they're fairly deep.
Whatever that canyon's called, that deep. You've heard the theory that there's theories where octopus are aliens. Have you heard those theories?
I've heard something along those lines. I don't know the details about it, but I mean, dude, like exactly. Sometimes I think about like insects that I've never seen before. I'm like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
I'm like, is that some sort of alien craft? Like, I've never seen. You know what I mean? But like, it's only that one, so you know what I mean? Why am I not seeing it? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I mean, but there are so many potentials. You know what I mean?
I think so, yes.
For like what aliens could be. You know what I mean?
Yep, exactly.
So I mean, I think that man is too arrogant to take in the possibilities that we might be assigning this, like you said, we were talking about a humanoid creature, a
Yeah,
humanoid thing
yeah.
is like that's what we're going to encounter as aliens. And I mean, like we see movies like Fifth Element, Starship Troopers, like things like that, where you do see like insectoid aliens. You do see like alien beings and creatures that aren't necessarily the humanoid kind, but like the Fifth Element is mostly the humanoid kind.
Yep.
Which is fun. I love Luc Besson's movies. Like it's great, fantastic film. So I love Fifth Element. Well, let's get back to this. So check this out. So I'm going to talk about the inside of the craft. Okay. Because Travis Walton described that in great detail. So I'm just going to give you guys a brief description. I mean, not too brief. I'll give you guys a pretty in-depth description of actually what he claimed to have seen in his experience in the craft. So when he woke up in the craft, his account is one of the most extensively documented in UFO abduction lore. Here are the key details of what he reported. Okay, he said the first room, the medical or examination room. When Walton first regained consciousness, he found himself lying on a metallic, reclined table inside a small, dimly lit room. The ceiling was low, and the walls were curved, creating a smooth, seamless appearance. The air inside the room felt heavy and warm, almost humid. The lighting was soft and diffused without any visible bulbs or fixtures. So like no actual practical lighting source. Yeah. So you see this light, like you see there's a light bulb here, like you can see that there's light coming from this light. Like there was none of that. But if you like see Josh, like if you look at Josh's frame, you'll see Josh has no light source in his frame. There's just an implied light source from outside that frame. That's what he was seeing. He was seeing.
Hopefully he didn't see incandescent bulbs on the spaceship. That would be a bummer.
I know, right? I know. You'd be like, hey, wait a minute. You know what I mean? Like, and then the walls also appeared metallic, but not reflective, giving off a soft glow, almost as if they were the source of light themselves. The beings in the room themselves. Walton saw 3 short humanoid beings standing around him. They were about 4 to 5 feet tall, with bald heads, large almond-shaped eyes, small mouths, and no visible ears or hair. Their skin was pale and slightly translucent. They wore tight-fitting orange or brown jumpsuits, actually, with no visible seams, zippers, or buttons. That's interesting. Because I feel like in a lot of alien lore that we hear about, they're wearing nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The beings did not verbally communicate, but they did seem to interact through gestures or telepathic means. So, I wanted to go back here where I said they had no visible ears or hair. So, ears. So, what we were talking about as far as like if they were humans from another time.
Yeah.
Like you develop and undevelop the skills and the features that you don't need or you do need over time. So, I wonder if like people stopped communicating with each other verbally over time because text. Maybe. How many people would rather text than actually talk on the phone? Like most. Like nowadays, most people don't want to like actually have the personal interaction. So like if you really think about that and you really like go back to like what we're talking about as the potential for them to be us in the future, having lost features or skills or characterizations or what I'm saying, things about themselves, that kind of plays to that. And I wonder if they are aliens and they do have no visible ears, if it's because we stopped talking to each other.
They're sick of talking to each other.
It was just in general, like people, us. Like over time, we decided that was something we no longer needed, you know, and we stopped using our verbal skills and we stopped singing and we stopped, doing all the things, you know, which, would suck,
Yeah, that would be hard to believe, but, like how many people don't communicate anymore.
Right, exactly. So check this out. So he did attempt to escape, actually. Okay. Feeling threatened, Walton lashed out at the beings and managed to get off the table. He noticed a strange instrument or device on a nearby table that he picked up to defend himself, but the beings did not retaliate. They quickly left the room through a seamless doorway, and Walton found himself alone. Now, the second room he was in, the control room. Walton wandered through a curved metallic hallway, which led him into another area resembling a control room or a cockpit. The room had a single chair in the center facing a control panel with a glowing screen and various buttons or touch-sensitive controls. The controls had no labels or recognizable symbols, appearing smooth and futuristic. When Walton touched some buttons, the lights dimmed and the room filled with star-like projections, almost like a planetarium or a navigation display. And then after exploring further, Walton encountered a tall human-like figure wearing a blue jumpsuit and a helmet-like covering. This being, unlike the first ones, appeared more human, with more facial features and normalities, but it never spoke. What a trip, dude, right? Like something less evolved into gray, but more like more back on the timeline. Yeah. What a fucking trip, dude.
Was there a gap from him being in the first room to the second room? Did he remember going from room to room, or was it he just...
Yeah, well, he went through this hallway. He went through that, like...
did he go through that door you couldn't see also?
I don't know how he got out of there. That's a good question. Like, did he go through that seamless door, or did they leave it open?
Yeah.
Apparently, somehow he got out of there and he wandered through that metallic hallway and kind of led him down to these, to these other rooms. Room. Yeah, exactly. And where he met that tall, did the stuff with the thing and saw the planets, and he met the guy with the blue jumpsuit. Okay, so now the being actually escorted Walton through another hallway where he encountered more human-like figures like that one.
Okay,
including one male and one female, all wearing the same uniforms. They led him into another room where they placed a mask over his face. After that, he blacked out and later found himself back on Earth. Okay, so in the movie, just to reiterate, like they did some wild shit to this dude. Like they like drilled into like the corner socket of his eye. I remember that. I remember that scene being so like gruesome. Oh my God! Like, you know what I mean? Like you see the whole thing where like the camera and the thing's coming down and you show his eye and it's all close. Like they did the whole thing, and then they like went in with the whole like thing over his eye. It was like ka-ching. And then like multiple needles went like in his eye. It was crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to rewatch that movie.
Dude, it was a wild movie, bro. Fire in the Sky is such a good movie. Okay, so the craft's design and atmosphere. Walton noticed that the entire interior seemed seamless. Like there were no like corner, you know what I mean? Like, we have like shit on the walls that go with the door, you know what I mean? Like, no baseboards and shit. You know what I mean? Like, and as if the walls, floor, and ceiling were molded from one continuous material, just one thing.
Interesting.
The lighting had no clear source, but was soft and ambient, possibly coming from the walls or ceiling. And the doorways appeared to open and close without visible seams or hinges. So I wonder if, like, how they opened, like if they opened like slid open, or if they opened just kind of like, kind of gradiently appeared open, like, you know what I mean? Like, but his description of the alien craft aligns with common themes in UFO abduction reports, actually, particularly the sterile environment, the smooth and futuristic design, and the presence of both small gray-like beings and more human-looking figures. Whether his experience was real or imagined or fabricated remains a topic of debate. But his detailed recollection continues to fascinate UFO researchers and enthusiasts. Travis Walton's account of his time aboard the spacecraft includes also descriptions of medical procedures and examinations that he believed were performed on him. Okay. Now there's a couple of things, like I remember telling you like about when I saw the movie. Like there was the major breakdown of events in the movie with him getting the stuff in the eye, and they like shoved all this goop down his throat and like shoved this thing, like essentially like they intubated him, you know? But bro, like it was wild, dude. And like he goes into detail about what they actually did to him and his first regained consciousness. When he first regained consciousness, lying on his back on the hard reclined table inside the small metallic room, his vision was blurry and he felt weak. He was disoriented, similar to like waking from anesthesia. And he immediately sensed something was wrong and felt a strange pressure in his body, almost as if he'd been sedated or drugged. And as his vision cleared, he saw the three short humanoid beings standing around him. And then they were like 4 to 5 feet tall, tiny mouths, the almond-shaped eyes, all that. And he said he described their gaze as intense and unsettling, making him feel like a test subject rather than a person.
Huh.
Yeah, and he noticed a bright light shining down on him, suggesting some kind of medical procedure or examination was happening. Now, although they did not physically restrain him, he felt weak and unable to move easily, as if he'd been paralyzed or was under some kind of chemical influence.
Sedated or something. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And as he became more of a aware of his surroundings, the fear and the panic began to set in, and he lashed out, obviously, pushed one of the beings away, he rolled off the table, he grabbed the cylindrical object from a nearby surface intending to defend himself, but then they just jetted, you know what I mean? Like, they just left the room, through that, like, like a doorway that just randomly appeared, When they didn't fight back, it actually surprised him a little bit, And then, when he went into that control room and saw those star-like projections, like, I can't imagine if this is real. Like, you're on some alien craft, you have to know you're not on Earth anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you see this thing and you're like, holy shit, is this a map to possibly get back home? But how, as a 22-year-old logger in 1975, do you discern anything you're seeing?
Yeah.
Make any sense of it, or somehow try and get yourself back?
Yeah, and hitting buttons to have that stuff pop up. I don't think I would want to hit buttons on a spaceship.
Randomly, bro. Like, randomly.
I would be worried that I would make it crash if I was on a spaceship. Wrong button.
I know, dude. I know.
But so if this whole thing's fabricated, what would you do in the forest for 5 days? How would you live and survive that?
Right. And, I don't know if he, like, what he describes something that maybe took hours.
Yeah.
So him being gone for 5 days indicates that maybe he was under this anesthesia for slightly longer.
Yeah. Yep.
Something along those lines. Maybe he woke up days after he had been abducted, or maybe it just took them days to get him back to where he was.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's yeah. So, when he found the human-like figures that were in the blue uniforms and the helmets, they didn't speak. They gestured him to follow. He was actually relieved to see somebody that looked somewhat human.
Yeah.
He complied, hoping for answers, and he was led through another hallway into a larger area where he saw two more human-like figures, the man and the woman, and he was trying to ask them questions. Their expressions stayed neutral, and they did not seem alarmed by his presence either. And but those beings did not answer any of his questions either. Instead, they guided him onto a table in another room. That's where they placed the oxygen mask over his face, or seemed to be some sort of mask that was similar to an oxygen mask. And then the moment that mask was secured, Walton lost consciousness. So the moment he got whatever they were giving him, he was out. The next thing he remembered, he was waking up on a cold pavement, watching a bright disc-shaped craft hovering above him before it shot away into the sky. Now, while Walton does not recall any invasive surgeries or extreme pain, some researchers speculate that he may have undergone neurological scans or monitoring. His confusion, dizziness, and weakness suggest his nervous system might have been affected. Biological sampling. The bright lights and examination setup resemble medical testing environments. And sedation or memory suppression. The use of the mask to make him black out could indicate an attempt to erase or suppress his memories of the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Walton's descriptions of his treatment on the alien craft align with other classic abduction narratives, particularly the theme of non-human entities conducting medical examinations on unwilling human subjects. Whether real or imagined, his story has remained one of the most famous and detailed UFO abduction accounts in history. So it's been heavily documented, heavily investigated. They questioned the hell out of all those dudes. I wonder if there was, and I'm sure they did medical tests on Travis. None of the research I did claims to have found any proof of any
opioids in his system where he was just tripping for 5 days.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't find any hallucinogens or anything like that. They didn't find any other hard drugs or crazy shit in the system. They didn't also find, although 5 days is maybe long enough to get out of your system. I don't know.
I don't know either.
You know what I mean? And then they didn't find any. They also didn't find any hard proof that he was lying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's they can't prove it, but they can't disprove it either. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, that's kind of wild. But at the same time, there has been. Have you ever heard of the Rendlesham Forest Incident?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna just go off what I remember here, and I might be getting some things wrong here, but the Rendlesham Forest Incident was, you know what? Let me just kind of do a quick, brief.
And where is this forest? Do you know what state?
It's in the UK.
Oh, okay.
The Rendlesham Forest Incident, okay? It was one of the most famous UFO encounters in history. Another one, right? Okay. The reason I prefaced this was because it is one of the most investigated, just like the Travis Walton case.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So the Rendlesham Forest Incident is one of the most famous UFO encounters in history. It took place over several nights between December 26th and December 28th, 1980, near RAF Woodbridge in Suffolk, England, which was used by the U.S. Air Force at the time, okay? Now, the key events are as follows. December 26, 1980, U.S. military personnel stationed at the base saw strange lights descending into Rendlesham Forest. A patrol team was sent to investigate and encountered a triangular craft with glowing symbols, emitting a bright light and radiating heat. Now, this is the craziest part. All right, I'm gonna go off what I remember here and see if I got this right.
All right.
A dude walked up, touched it, and all this information came flying into his head. Over the next few days, he wrote down all this binary code and shit, and like all these symbols and shit.
Okay.
And like recreated everything that like he saw in this thing, and it translated to a message. And I don't remember what that message is. Let me see if I got that
All
right.
right, cliffhanger.
One airman, Jim Peniston, claimed to have touched the craft, noting its smooth metallic surface and strange hieroglyphic-like markings. The craft reportedly lifted off and disappeared at high speed. December 28, 1990, the base's deputy commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, led another team into the forest. They witnessed bright lights moving through the trees and recorded their experiences on an audio tape. So this happened over a fucking period of multiple nights, and multiple people saw this thing from the Air Force or from the U.S. military. U.S. military. They witnessed bright lights moving through the trees and recorded their experiences on an audio tape. Halt also claimed to have seen a beam of light shining down from the craft onto the ground and even onto the base itself. A radiation survey conducted at the landing site reportedly showed higher than normal radiation levels. The UK Ministry of Defense did not classify it as a threat and closed the case. Theories range from a misidentified lighthouse beam from the Orford Ness Lighthouse, secret military test, or genuine extraterrestrial contact. Despite skepticism, the Rendlesham Forest Incident remains one of the most credible and well-documented UFO encounters, often called Britain's Roswell. I'm going to ask here, I'm going to see if Jim Peniston, recreate what he saw when he touched the craft? Because that seems to be I'm curious. That seems
what
to
the
be a
message
detail
was,
I remember. It says yes. Jim Peniston claims to have recreated the symbols he saw on the craft after touching it. The symbols in his notebook. After approaching the small triangular-shaped craft, Peniston said he observed etched symbols on the smooth metallic surface. So it just says I got that wrong. No, I'm sorry. No, I got it right. Check this out. Says he described the symbols as resembling ancient hieroglyphics, but unlike any known writing system. He sketched these symbols in his notebook, which he later presented as evidence. The symbols included triangular shapes, circles, and lines, which some have compared to runes or coded messages. The binary code revelation. This is what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Decades later, in 2010, Peniston revealed that after touching the craft, he experienced a telepathic download of binary code in his mind. Exactly like I said. He reportedly wrote down 16 pages of binary digits in his notebook over the following days. When decoded, the binary allegedly contained a message with coordinates pointing to locations like Caracol, Belize, Sedona, Arizona, the Great Pyramid in Egypt, and a mysterious underwater location near Ireland. Some interpreters claim the message referenced exploration of humanity, continuous for planetary advance.
Huh.
Yes. skepticism and controversy, bro.
All in binary too, right? All zeros and ones. So
exactly, dude. Like, so this dude created 16 pages of this binary,
and that was from 1980, and then he
30 years later.
He wrote it down 30 years later?
I don't know.
Because
decades later,
I'm like, that's a lot of time to learn 16 pages of binary code.
So this is when he revealed that after touching. So it wasn't until 30 years later that he revealed that after touching it, he experienced a telepathic download of binary code.
See, I can see some fraud being able to happen in that. If you got 30 years to learn 16 pages of binary, you could.
I like your...
you could.
Yeah, I like you being devil's advocate and like not just jumping on board. Yeah. Like, yeah, bro, you did it, dude. You know. So some researchers and skeptics argue that Peniston's claims evolved over time, particularly the binary code, which was revealed 30 years after the incident. Others believe his account adds credibility to the Rendlesham case, as multiple military witnesses also reported seeing unidentified lights and objects. Regardless, Peniston's sketches of the craft and symbols remain one of the most tangible pieces of evidence from the Rendlesham Forest Incident. So, I mean, that almost can't be debated as having happened because so many people during those 2-3 days did see that happen.
Yeah.
You know,
now, whether that's a military craft, which...
Right.
See, I'm a big believer of that.
Yeah. That
like,
there's
all
just
of our
shit that
UFOs
we're working
are
on and shit
we've been working on.
Us.
They're still black. They haven't even gone to that. You know what I mean?
Right. So, okay. So do you remember, have you heard of the Battle of Long Beach?
No.
So I think it was like in the 40s. I believe it was in the 1940s. It might have been like during World War II for all I know.
Okay.
It might have been 42. I think it was the 40s. But a UFO showed up over Long Beach.
Okay.
California.
Uh-huh.
Right above, you can look it up. I mean, there's like pictures of it from the news back then. And people were like walking out of their houses and shooting at it.
No.
This is back and forth. No, dude.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude. And then, like, a couple of days later, the government said it was a weather balloon or something, or like a rogue weather balloon.
Yeah, they still pull that.
But yeah, exactly.
Weather balloon. Okay.
Bullshit. You know what I mean? But something
story.
was some craft was out there. But you think it's most likely, if we're seeing these crafts and these drones and shit, you think it's most likely man-made or created by the United States government?
I think so, and I think it's been happening like that forever. And there's so many cases of sightings now too by reliable sources and video now of stuff that seems realistic, very realistic.
So what do you think about this recent drone situation that we've had where like the drones have been popping off?
Up with that?
So hold on, but you got to understand that they're not just happening in New Jersey. They were happening all over. They were happening in different places in the country as well as different places in the world.
Yeah,
they were being reported in South America, I believe Vietnam. I know Vietnam. And I'm not sure, but maybe the Philippines and a few other places as well. We're seeing these drones, so they can't be just American.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
I don't know. I wonder if there's like even an alliance between us, in other countries to fly these things and get information. I don't know.
Interesting. Well, you also too there's not just the drones. There's also these other things that we've been seeing in the sky that I've seen a couple of videos of these like orbs.
Yeah.
And they're flying around with the drones.
Yeah.
They're not the same thing.
I've seen some of those
And then
things,
I saw one or two videos where like an orb shot down a drone. And I'm like, what the hell? Dude, what the hell? So we got that type of thing. And then, but which one, if they're different entities, which one is the United States government? Which one is private?
Right?
Which one is public? Which one's foreign? Which one's domestic?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What are we doing out here? We're seeing essentially we're essentially seeing like a battle in the sky. Do you remember in Germany in like the 1500s, there was this painting that somebody made in the 1500s of a battle in the sky? It was like this old school painting, right? And they're seeing like in the painting, it's like all these crafts like firing at each other and shit like that. So like we are seeing that. We saw that recently. I wonder if something similar happened hundreds of years ago.
Could be.
That they were like, referencing in those paintings that we are now seeing a little bit of now.
I mean, you can go down the rabbit hole that there's like parallel dimensions in
there's
different
all kinds
time
of possibilities,
frames, and that, I mean, that's plausible too.
Yeah, it's just so much, you know what I mean? That there's so many different possibilities, and nobody wants to tell the truth.
Yeah,
nobody wants to be up front. You know what I'm saying? Like
we'll
it's a weather balloon.
You
know what I mean? So we're gonna get a lot of that.
Yeah, and there's still so many. I think there's too much red tape and bureaucracy in government to even get truth out of it. But I mean, some of the excuses they still give for stuff. It's like you don't see weather balloons flying over till they're halfway across the U.S. Come on.
Yeah.
So
insanity.
I don't think we'll ever get the truth of any of these, what some of these crafts are and who built them and where they're from. And
not unless we take the truth for ourselves and make them give it to us. But you know, that reminds me, and I think I'll end on this little story here. But my dad told me a story when he was in Vietnam. He was on an aircraft carrier. He was on the USS Enterprise, 2 tours of Vietnam, and he said, and I can't remember where he was for some reason. I want to say. I can't even remember actually. He was out at sea on the aircraft carrier, and he was out on watch one night on the flight deck with another guy, and they looked up and they saw 3 lights coming towards the aircraft carrier, and then the 3 lights at the same time started like weaving in and out of each other while they were still going towards the aircraft carrier at like super high speeds. Like there were 3 crafts that just started like shung, 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 like, and they were still going in the same direction. So my dad was like, what the so they turned around and bolted back towards the tower. The thing flew right over the aircraft carrier and kept going. My dad said they were scared out of their minds. And my dad said the next day he went over to this guy like during like chow time. He had like told a couple people who didn't believe him. Yeah. And he said he went over to this guy like, you know, in chow hall, and he was like, dude, like tell these guys like what we saw last night. I was trying to tell them, and the guy told him, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, nice. And then afterwards the guy pulled my dad aside and he said don't ever ask me to talk about that ever again. Yep. I'm not going to discuss it with anybody. I will never talk about what we saw. Yeah, that's wild. Last night on the aircraft carrier. So don't ask. Yeah, that's wild. And my dad was like, "Why?" And the guy was like, "Just like don't. Like I'm not doing it." Yep. Yeah, and so I mean, personal decision or or government threats. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like nobody knows. But you know what I mean? Like these things are happening. There's people out there that are experiencing these incidents, abductions, or. Listen, I'm leaning on the side that something's happening. Yeah. Yeah, at least these people believe that something's happening to them. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? That they're not, I don't think that, I mean, while obviously there's some sort of fabrication going on with some of them. Yeah. With some of the stories out there are being fabricated, obviously. But I feel like there's, like the Travis Walton incident, like the Rendlesham case where you're getting multiple witnesses. I mean, hell, we've seen all these different things flying around the sky over the last few years, not just few months, So, something's going on. Something's out there, sure. Whether it's us, whether it's somebody outside the ice wall, whether it's somebody from outer space, whether it's somebody from in the future. We don't know currently, but I mean, maybe some other powers that are currently do know. Like I said, maybe the governments of the world know. I hope somebody knows something. Right. If not, still a mystery. Absolutely, brother. And Giselle, thank you so much, Josh, for joining me today, brother. Thanks, I appreciate it, man. It's been a great talking to you. Anything you'd like to say to everybody? No, man, that's about it. Yeah, I'd love to get our song. Love to get our song out there soon. Absolutely, brother. Great to have you on, man. Next time we'll get a camera and a microphone on Caden, and we'll include him in the episode here. It'll be awesome, dude. What do you think about that, Caden? Yeah. Sound good? Good to go? All right. Cool. All right, sounds good, you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Remember, you guys, we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, not the other way around. I'm Eddie Booze, and this is X the Matrix. I love you guys. Take care. See you next time.